Okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone. We're back at the Raffles podcast, Igniting Hot Seats, and today we have a very special guest, Gabriele Chiave. So, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today. We are during the salone, so apologies for my voice. If it's not so clear, I'll try to speak very slow. I'm Gabriele Chiave. I just now give the news today because it's just fresh news.
Yes.
I was a vice president for the Design and Innovation Global of Estée Lauder Group, overseeing 21 brands on design and innovation in the beauty. However, I came back to Europe since a week just for Salone, but I'll stay then here. I'll go on and move still working for beauty because it's a very amazing world to work with. But I moved here back to follow more nearly my design company, Controvento, and we are active on design projects, interior design projects, and so on. So
that sounds very exciting. We're going to talk more about collaborations, upcoming projects later.
Of course.
But I think we want to start with something where you're comfortable with. So I think we're going to start with beauty.
Okay, fair enough.
And going to do the first question.
Absolutely, please.
Beauty is about emotion, but in a world dominated by AI-driven trends, can human creativity still lead the way?
Oh, there's a lot of questions in one question here, so we have to dissect it a bit because take it step by step. So, beauty. So what I love about beauty is that it's something that makes people feel comfortable. They make feel people, confident in themselves. It's something that really helps people to shine, to feel strong. So it's not only about the formulation of beauty. So whether we speak about skincare, I was overseeing skincare, makeup, hair care, and perfume. And of course, it's something with each category is incredible. And then the perfume is the one, I believe, which is the most linked to emotions because it's linked a bit to fashion, to something which is more emotional. And I think that's one part of it. And when we design beauty, of course, we design the whole the user experience, the packaging behind it, how the product goes from A to Z to the stores, how you bring this emotional level of people connecting to the one brand. So I love that context and this work. And of course, AI is everywhere around us. You can't deny it, and you can't just. But creativity is still something that, of course, has the center of what we do. I mean, everybody's saying, what I like to think is that they always say that is a tool, that AI is a tool, as any other tool that creates innovation or that makes human evolution happen. However, AI, what is worrisome or not worrisome, what is new is that is a cognitive evolution of what is not, and it's not anymore a tool. It's becoming the tool which is our brain and our thinking. And sooner or later, I don't know what is so fast you can't really do a statement about if creativity AI will also take part of that. It is already partially. But so how we used it in my work is that I sketch a lot, for instance. Mm-hmm. So the concept, the idea, the sketching is still there. It's my creativity, it's my connections of the world that I put together to create something new. And then, of course, I polish them, but it starts always from that, and it will start from that. And I think that's essential. And what is essential is not to get lazy with our minds, lazy with the creativity, because it's very easy. It simplifies so much around us. All the process that is very, very dangerous. The fact of not feeding our brain, training our brain, being inspired, transform this inspiration in what you do. That has to stay, and not give that away. And it's your choice. It's not the machine choice. It's our choice to still do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's essential in what we do. Also, of course, in beauty we use them. We worked closely also with companies that do AI, and we train the models for working for us and not the way around. It's just that's very important.
I feel like this is something that we have heard before. This whole week, using AI as a tool is just something that we can all agree on, I think. But I loved your view of not wanting to lose creativity, because I think this is super important.
And that's your choice.
Yes.
Nobody forces you to put a prompt to create something. No, you can.
Exactly.
You still have to feed your passion, your soul, your brain, all aspects of yourself needs to be trained and fed constantly. And then whatever you do, if you do a sketch or you do a prompt, that's relevant to this topic.
Right. But is there other parts of the use of AI that you're scared about?
This part of the laziness, this part of that we're giving away a lot of what we can do, and some things are great because it's just time consuming, and I think that AI can polish the diamond within ourselves. But I'm just afraid when we go too far and it gets out of hands, and then humankind will be less and less able to do things. I mean, we don't have. There's a lot of principles that are very, very near to the same idea. Like even, okay, I'm some bit older than you guys, but I remember before all my phone numbers of my mom, and now I don't because of course the phone introduction. So compared to this, the more we give away to technology instead of supporting us but replacing us, and I think that's the trouble that we can really be careful of.
Right, exactly. I feel like that's something that a lot of people are scared about, that AI is going to replace them, which I don't know.
It's an evolution. It's human evolution. It's always been scary. It's always been challenging, but it transforms in evolution. We are still in control for the moment. And if you think about what worries is when we lose that control. If that comes, then the unknown is there for us to not speak about it now, because I don't know. We don't know what happened then.
Exactly. I think it's time to move on to the next question.
Oh, lovely.
AI can design, test, and market products faster than any human team. So what's left for designers?
Well, we can go on holiday and that's it, basta, and let them do everything. Why not? So going back to what I was saying before. So my process is really like the rough stone and the polishing of the stone and to get to that diamond at that perfection. I think that, with my team before, I know with several teams I had, maybe I needed like 20 people for 2 months to research and sketch and try an idea and see the renderings and the 3D, So that process took a lot of time to get to maybe 10 concepts. Now, with the same principle of the idea that I have, in 10% of the time, I do the 10 concepts. So it's just like simplify enormously. And of course, then it comes to then the fact of transformation, because the design studios are going to are transforming right now. You don't need any more 60 people to do your drawings and your cards and your 3D and your renderings. So that's going to be a transformation that is happening. Yeah. But I think that it just polishes and refines the human mind and the human ideas. It's just refining. You don't need all that mechanical process to get to what is the pureness of your thinking. So your pureness is celebrating and putting on the podium the pure thinking of humankind. And yeah, of course, unfortunately or fortunately, it's just taking away some parts of jobs, if you want to call them, or expertises that are going to transform, because you don't need that part anymore, that mechanical part, to reach that level of ideas. So yeah, that's how I'm working nowadays. Nowadays I need my iPad, my sketches, and concepts, ideas, and then I'm much more faster. Which comes also to another problem: the speed of things, and then the fast food of design, which is a big problem nowadays also, because it goes against what our world and planet needs. Because it's as we can see this week, there is a bit too large amount of products, and but that's another conversation. That's another discussion.
But maybe staying within your work and putting the thinking on a pedestal. Do you want to maybe feed us through your upcoming projects, your way of working, something that's going to come in the near future?
Okay, so in the beauty industry, what I loved, so what I was doing in beauty was really like upstream projects of design and innovation. So 3 to 5 to 10 years ahead in the future of design in beauty, which could be from a packaging to a store to an experience. So what I love the most is those projects where I could connect dots and goes to collaboration after. And for instance, one very interesting one that was I can disclose. I cannot say with the brands which it was with, but one of the two, yes, which was a piano, very famous piano brand, and a very famous perfume brand. And so I was with this piano industry, working with them and looking at how they build pianos since like 200 years, amazing. And then starting hearing about how they would speak of the notes and the organs and, all the same vocabulary than perfume. So, and I'm in perfume, so I say, that's very interesting. So I went back and I studied and found a book of 1800 of a scientist that already at that time, in 1850, put together notes of music and notes of fragrances. And it works. Because light, music, and fragrance is the three elements that creates more mood and atmosphere. Mood in people, atmosphere in a space.
There we were talking about emotions.
And emotions. Well. So basically what happens is that we put together a nose and a composer, and we're creating fragrances from symphonies and symphonies from fragrance, and they work together. The best fragrance for Vivaldi, that you immerse yourself in a space with the right light, with the right fragrance and the music, and then it's an amazing emotional thing. So this is one example of one project that I would do, besides really designing packagings or a bit more innovation related and collaboration related that we could speak about, because I think it's an extremely important thing. And nowadays I'm back also into the project that I work with. We work with Fendi Casa, we work with Baccarat, we work with Floss in the past. We're working now with Diesel, with a nice collection together with the brand. So very diverse projects. And interior design, we're looking at that too. We present a few hospitality projects. And what I love the most is that I'm a generalist. I love it. I love to diversity in the project. I mean, if you have a red thread of thinking and what you believe in and what values you stand for, you can really touch with the right teams and the right partners, because you can't do everything yourself.
Different directions.
Yes, and I love it. It's like if you work with like 100 little boxes in front of you, and each box is a company which has his own expertise, strategies, production techniques, materials, etc. And you work with them for 6 months or a year, you get to know them really, really well, and they do like an airline, whatever this. Then you step out and you work with a company that does chandeliers, and then another one that does textiles. Mm-hmm. And what you can do is that you can make connection that nobody else can do, because connections nowadays, to me, is extremely important to connect the industry, people, ideas, technologies, materials, etc. And those are the real, because there's so much thing that has already been done, but there's so much connection that still can be done. They're just out there. Just to find them, put them together, and that's how you innovate also. You don't have to create something new to innovate, just have also to be able to see things in this way.
Yeah, I love what you said. I feel like we're having so many touch points, but one thing I wanted to say first, what you reminded me of is there's this book, The Parfum, mm-hmm. And I think it's so fun because he goes around and his nose opens up worlds and love in the end. So I feel like that makes so much sense, talking about perfume as well. Yeah. And then going into collaborations. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're steady and authentic to your brand, it's always a possibility to do any collab.
Well, collabs, as again we can see in Salone, mm-hmm. Needs to be relevant. Yeah. It needs really to, because otherwise it becomes a marketing tool. It's fine, but people will not buy into it. I mean, I guess. So I did a large strategy cross-industry collaborations mm-hmm. between the brands I used to work with and I work now with. So the Baccarat of this world, or really like the companies that stands on centuries of design in the European mindset of design. And I then was just jumping in the States into this corporate huge group of beauty, luxury beauty. And there it was amazing to understand and to see how small our brands were, but how full of heritage and history. Yeah. And how also these big groups and these big brands, beauty brands, they really were looking towards our brands in order to really reach that connection that they would love to see. And so collaboration, I think is when you elevate both brands, when the brand equity is celebrated, both sides, when you really truly bring something to your customers, to both sides of your customers, so a human-centric kind of approach, then it works. And then if you pick the two companies that are the best in what they do, they give credibility to what they do. They give a sense of meaning that then people will recognize and that will accept. And that's when a collaboration is successful. Right. Both commercially, both as image, both as marketing, both as whatever, distribution. But you really need to trigger that. And I think there's several ways to do it. But I love it. I love it because I think it empowers, again, that connectivity of thinking that you can do when you bring people. And also in our work, in our studio, we have the best people that does interiors and branding and product and so on. So I love to work with people also within our studio. And a very important part of collaboration, beside brand collaboration, is that as designer, remember always, we're not an artist. We are an orchestra of people working together. So we always forget, we celebrate the designer, we celebrate a bit less the teams in the studio, but even less the people that works in the company, the amazing people, engineers, marketing people, leads of companies, that without them you would not do nothing, because our ideas are just a little part of all the process. They are coming into, when we were working with Floss, we did some project that without their expertise and their amazing teams, it would not fly. So there are diverse facets of collaborating, but I love it.
But talking about collaborating, my third thing that I wanted to talk to you about was innovation, because with collaboration comes innovation. What does innovation mean to you, and how can it be defined? Is there a definition?
Yeah, I have one of my definitions that I like to always use as a toolbox. So when you think about innovation, most of the times you think about scientific innovation, technical innovation. But innovation is I call them as 6 or 7 I's. There is so many innovation. There is sustainable innovation, of course. Nowadays, that should always be there. There is technical, scientific, so materials or technical industries. There is emotional innovation. I mean, how you now trigger emotions in new generations, and how there is a culture innovation. Yeah. So how you can make relevant project in the culture, which is always evolving into new users, into new ideas, into a new way of living. So there is all these innovations that together makes an innovation. Nowadays, you cannot just have emotional or scientific. You need to, I try always to look and do the checks. How can I be innovative in all these matters? And you need more than one nowadays. Yeah. If it's only technical, yes. If it's, if you start adding a culture of innovations, or sustainable, technical, scientific, then it starts to becoming a project that could last the test of time. And I think nowadays, the more you do that, of course, the problem is that innovation takes enormous amount of time, of patience, of investments, and nowadays it is a bit more difficult to find it. Because it's being used and misused a lot in a lot of industries, as a marketing probably tag of innovation. But what I loved when I went to the States and in the company and the group I was working is that the team was really striving to do this with, for instance, the example I did before with this perfume. Yeah. To really create meaningful new path of creating something for our customers. And now I'm trying to get back a little bit of this mindset in here in Europe in our project. And of course, some companies are maybe 700 years old. We work in Europe here. Right. It is difficult. Yeah. And it is not so easy, because also when we do innovation, depends on which company, which brand. If it's a 100 million brand or 5 billion is different. Or if you are very luxurious or very entry level. So it's innovation is very diverse also depending on these matters. But yeah, it's a sort of mindset. Yeah. It's a mindset that I have it as a library of tools when I do a project, and I always double check. Is that really relevant for this? Is that changing how people live or how they see things, etc.? So that's how I see it. Yeah, it's more complex than not just one word. It's not.
It's never one word, right?
No.
So maybe innovation is about people. But when we're talking about people and you coming back to Europe, what is your reasoning for coming back to Europe? Because, Europe is dying down maybe a little bit. People are looking over to Asia. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're not the center of the world anymore. The world I don't think the world has a center, in fact, anyhow. No, I think Europe, is, of course, I'm from Italy. There is a lot of reason why I came back. Family also driven reasons. Right. And also because I love the way we do projects. My history was here. I grew up here. I was first in Milan and then in Amsterdam, 15 years, the Marcel Wanders Studio, and I got to know how we think, and our clients are here. But mostly, I think really I love the depth of our culture, the depth of our heritage, the depth of our roots, and how we think and how we do design. And that's unique in the world. And again, going even to big corporates or big brands, they all refer back to what we do, because we are the old continent and the one, I believe, with a very deep tissue of what we do in design or in creativity or history and so on. So yeah, I'm back, but I've been traveling all my life because of family reasons. I'm a diplomat, so I grew up in Africa, in South America, and a bit everywhere. Each 5 years I was moving, and so you never know. Maybe Asia is going to be next. I don't know. For now, we'll see. I'm just back since a week, so let's not, if my family is listening to here now, let's not move too fast. But it's always been in my, and I think that also triggers a lot how I see creativity and how I see collaborations and innovations, because I've been traveling around all my life, each 4 years in a different continent, different culture. And I think that triggers also the way of wanting to go further, wanting to explore more, want to enrich yourself with experiences and different mindsets. Yeah. Because that's how also creativity is boosted. So.
Right. You were also mentioning Amsterdam and Marcel Wanders. Mm-hmm. Do you want to, I don't know, give us an insight into that part of your life?
Well, I was 15 years. I still have the XX here. I mean, so I think it's very interesting. Another thing, thinking of design. I've been studying here in Milano, within our history of Italian masters, and how we do design that is serving the industry, serving clients. So you design for a client, and therefore you have all constraints, and you have your boundaries of industry, costs, materials, production, molds, So I grew up there. Still was here for a few years, working for a few studios, and convinced about what this is how things are done. And then suddenly I went to Marcel Wanders in the 15 years after. And of course, design to me is between art and industry, and and where you put that little line. If you're more towards art or if you're into industry, design changes. And of course, Dutch design at that time, at least, was much more going to art. So designers were also trained in Eindhoven to really, when they do a design, they do a concept, an idea, and they build it themselves, and they do it, and they go together and sell it. Simplifying very much, because of course the North and the Netherlands also have the same amount of companies and industry that can serve that. So the purpose is super enlightening, because I was coming from this part of really industrial process and then going to very much more artistic. So the first time I come to Marcel Wanders, I was coming with, my 3Ds and renderings, and then for 2 months I was sending bells, like 2 meters bells for an exhibition that we had in 2007. So, but I think that both sides of this thinking is amazing, because you can decide whether, depending on the client you're working on, the industry you're working on, where do you position yourself, how much ingredients, more artistic ingredients you put, or how much industrial. And so it's beautiful, because one is much more powerful, inspiring, the other one is more serving an industry, therefore serving people, because it's more, production driven. And therefore, it was amazing 15 years. I was I was a creative director with Marcel, leading 70 people in product design, art direction, interior design, and the whole things we were doing. And so it's a big part of my life. In fact, it's the city where I lived the most. Was 15 years. And then now 3 years in New York, and it was now time to come back to Europe.
Right. So we're looking into a bright future.
Yes.
I think we'll continue with the next question.
If AI created the perfect beauty product based purely on data, would you launch it, even if it lacked artistic vision?
Artistic vision? It will probably come to that sooner or later, I'm afraid. But it's artistic vision. You see, we go back to the fact artistic vision or product. I think is if a product is perfectly thought through because of the amount of material that you use, and you'll use more, the right material for the performance, because it's not user experience, also performance is very important. If it's relevant for people, if it's human-centric, really serving people, because it's really targeted for their needs and the right cost for the right industry. I mean, there's nothing wrong about it. I mean, I think there is a lot of product that would need a bit of help in terms of performance, in terms of cost, in terms of material efficiency, that could use that. I mean, also in architecture. I mean, now AI can really make the best, probably, skyscraper with the less material and structural, without human errors and mistakes. So I don't see why not. And then again, the human touch and the last touch could always look at this artistry point. But I don't see why we should. And by the way, it's not going to be possible to stop it. It's going to be that way anyhow. So we rather embrace it instead of facing it, and embrace it to use it as a partner instead of trying to to make the best out of it.
Yeah, I also think that it's very relevant what you said in the beginning about as long as you don't lose human creative thinking, like going back to using it as a tool, I think it's fine. But if we're getting overpowered by that, then it's gonna not be interesting anymore.
The thing is that it's being so fast. It's faster than we can even think of. We're speaking a bit now, while probably things are going much more far than we are thinking now, me and you. As things are in the last 2 years, and what we see daily is going faster. And I think maybe one day we just woke up and it's already been gone far. Yeah, right? So we're like tapping on our shoulders like, wow, and there's a really AI guy behind us. And also with the robotic story. Well, anyway. But again, I don't think we should be afraid, but we should be, and not we, but I think, we should control it a bit, make it, because it could really go left and right.
Yeah, so, but in the end, it is created by human minds. So do you think that it's like, because you were insinuating that it's taking over, but in the end, it's like something that's created by us.
It is, but as anything created by us until now, it won't create itself. Now this can create itself. So it goes further out of our hands because it can move on, create itself, and learn and be better than us. So I mean, going back to the cognitive approach of a tool, now this is the first time that tool can become as intelligent, more intelligent, and be independent from humankind. And that's the regulation type of thinking on how we want to live and how we will want to live with it, because it will become something, I'm pretty convinced, independent of humankind.
Right.
So how you coexist with that, I don't, and we're still speaking about something we don't know, because we know, but I believe that that's probably is happening already now as we speak.
Right.
We don't have to be worried about.
I don't think so.
No, I hope not.
I think it's time to move on to the last question, talking about challenges. So we'll see. Maybe end on a more positive note.
No, it's been positive. I've been positive. I don't want to be negative. Absolutely not. Challenges in which context or which terms?
The question is going to come.
Oh, sorry.
If you could design for a brand outside of beauty, what industry would challenge you the most?
Outside of beauty, I think fashion. To me, I think fashion is something that would challenge me a lot because of the process, and now on the sustainable side of it, on the human side of it, I've always been triggered to be possibly doing something in fashion.
Right. Yeah.
As a designer, but also as a brand, maybe as a company, as something that responds to the most intimate human needs, I believe, as beauty. As I was saying, you wear something, you wear lipstick, you wear perfume, or you also wear clothes. I think that era intrigues me a lot.
Yeah.
But also the challenge that comes with it, which is the consumptions, the fast fashion, the sustainability around that. I think that's something. I've been working in quite some industries, from airlines to food to packaging to hotels and so on. Fashion is something that we didn't touch so much yet.
Never, not in any collaboration.
Well, yeah, accessories. We did some bags and purses and stuff and scarves, but not real fashion, right? Real like clothing, and that triggers me because again, it's linked to something that is really makes people who they are.
Yeah. And also, as you said, with like fast fashion and sustainability, there's like so many topics that are being discussed, and making something great and even innovative in fashion, I think, is something that
which I don't know about it, so I'm not going to speak more about it. But if someone can, can have a little discussion after, it would be great. So challenges, other challenges in design is there's a lot of challenges nowadays.
Right.
Is again the fast production of too many items disposed each year. I mean, when before things would last for years, imagine there's no repair shops anymore. I remember repair shops. Of course, there's no repair shops because no people don't repair things anymore. So the challenging matters now is how to create, and how we see again in this salons or in these fairs, is that companies are doing project in 6 months, 8 months, throw it in the market, see, like, the spaghetti on the wall sticks, yes, it doesn't stick, yeah, cook another one. And it's yearly throwing things on the market to just try and test them. And that's a shame, because unfortunately, the shorter is your thinking process and your testing and trials and the design process, design thinking, the shorter that is, the shorter the product will be correct and survive. So that's a big challenge to me to market today. To try to train, and as designers to also challenge you to say, okay, let's take 2 years to do a project. Sometimes also it's not sustainable maybe for the design practice, but that's how you push and you make products sustainable. The more you work with the right time, the right approach, the right quality, the right thinking quality, not just product quality, then the product will survive. It will last the test of time, as I said before. So that's a big challenge for designers nowadays.
I think it's a hard path to walk on, to balance all of the different necessities.
Yeah, and AI helps us, but not in this context of being less fast, less speed, and quickly do 10 ideas in a day that I now like, but also say, okay, that's how you see today in the salon. I'm seeing today, I think this year I see the first results of the use of AI from designers. I don't know, I sense that there's much more things out there, much more fast-made, and maybe a lot of stylistic approaches, and not so real products or So it's a challenge, but challenges are nice. Let's end in a positive note, because challenges are nice, and that's what design is about. Is a challenge each day. If you have to answer questions and solve problems, and that's the beauty of our work. It's something that keeps you alive, and I think is amazing.
Exactly, and challenges are also the way how new things are created. So
of course,
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yes.
We're so glad to have had you here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all of you to listen in. And I wish you a wonderful end of the week, of this creative week instead of design week. We were speaking before about it. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.